What's up, everybody? We are here to talk about a tremendous concert. Fish played at Shoreline last night. As I think everyone knows, the band was forced to relocate this show from last night, and they ended up at Shoreline. Which, man, what an amazing show! Before we get into it, we're going to bring in a guest, David, who was there last night, and he's going to tell us about his experience. And sorry, we're starting late. I was trying to get my camera to work, but I had to use this other camera. So, we're here though. Please put your comments and thoughts and questions into the chat box. And this is brought to you by Shift Genuine Cannabis. You can go to shiftcannabis.com. You have about 5 days left to enter the contest to win tickets to October 30th and October 31st in Vegas. Airfare, accommodations, it's all happening. Hope to see you in Vegas. And we're going to have an event on the lot on Sunday at Dick's, probably around 3:30 Eastern, 3:30 local time. That's not Eastern. I'll be there. Tom will be there. Brian Brinkman, Brad, we're all going to be there. And I think everyone has heard this by now. I hope you have, that we have an Osiris strain of cannabis that will be available at the Golden Meds locations around Denver. I can put a link to that. Shiftcannabis.com has all those details, but we're super proud to be partnering with them and excited for everyone to see this strain, but also to maybe join us at Vegas. So join the contest, shiftcannabis.com, and thanks to Shift. Okay, so before I bring David, our guest, in, a show like last night, it makes you think, it makes you reflect on things, or at least it does that to me. I feel like at this point I have to say that I think this is the best that Fish has ever been as a band. And qualitatively and quantitatively, I think this is the case. So qualitatively, patience, experimentation, diversity of songs, diversity of jamming, the diversity of tempos. You're hearing things that I don't think we've ever heard before from the band. Quantitatively, like if you're into big jams, this tour has that too. So we're 18 shows in. We've had 8 jams of 20 plus minutes. I think that's the most since 2003, this early in a tour. Last night's jam of Soul Planet was the 3rd longest jam ever. So, that's pretty solid. I should say thanks to fish.net for keeping those stats handy so that I didn't have to figure it out myself, and check out the Mockingbird Foundation. So, I mean, I just think they're amazing right now. I'll say a little bit more about it, but this was a show, but particularly the Soul Planet jam that was played with a lot of intention. And I want to ask David about this when he joins. But here's what I mean. If you listen to like a tweezer from AC or the tweezer from Atlanta, I think you hear something that's sort of organically forming and organically evolving along the way. And amazing stuff comes out of it. But if you listen to the Soul Planet from last night, I think you hear something where they come out and say, we're going to do this and we're going to make this jam happen. I feel like it's similar to a couple, like the Alpine Valley Ruby Waves from 2019. That was the last show of the tour. And Trey had said in an interview that they were going to jam something. They thought it was going to be Mercury, but it ended up being Ruby Waves. But they went into that show knowing that they had that intention, and that, that showed from the performance. Another example, the Tahoe Tweezer. There's a guy named Kevin who I know from Twitter. He was at a bar after the first night of Tahoe in 2013 and told Fishman that they hadn't played the longest tweezer that had been played ever was in 1995, and they hadn't played a tweezer that long since. And they had a whole discussion with Fishman, and clearly that influenced the next night when they played that tweezer. And I just think last night, because of the relocation, and I think the band was conscious of what people had been through and the thanking of the firefighters and emergency workers. And it seemed like they just wanted to go out and do something special. And obviously it worked. So we're going to bring David in a second. Now, this song, did they purposely do this with a song that they know is disliked by some fans? If you saw the tweet, I've never seen Fish from the Road do this before, but they retweeted the song announcement with 47 planet icons, which is just kind of funny. And Fish has been trolling fans since day one. They'll never stop. And if you forget that, you might have a hard time with this band. But okay, so the last thing, going back to my original point, why do I think this is the best they've ever been? So I think they're all better musicians. Maybe not in terms of speed or precision, but in terms of listening, creativity, patience, explorations, the expanding of the technology they use. And there are clearly nights when that that doesn't work and they don't connect and the energy isn't right. And from a percentage perspective, like maybe they don't deliver as consistently as they have in the past. But when a show's great, like last night and like many nights this tour, it's better than almost anything. It's really hard to predict when that's going to happen, but when it happens, it's just incredible. And the last thing I'll say is that it's really, really hard to think of another band who's this creative and has this much fun this far into their career. So if you can, go see Phish. All right, I'm going to add David. Hey, how's it going, man?
How you doing?
Good. Sorry for that intro soliloquy, but I
was
my chest.
I wanted a second and third everything you were saying, and it's funny. I'm watching the show last night, and I wanted to say, is this the best Phish show I've ever been to? Like, I'm saying that to myself throughout the show. And then I hate saying the word best because, is it in the moment? But like, wow, what are we seeing here? Like, this is really happening.
Yeah. So did you feel like that from the beginning?
I did. I mean, it just happened. I mean, Glide, obviously we have memories of Glide that aren't so, happy. So it was really nice to see them come out with that, obviously knowing we're in a much different place right now. And then right into the Forbans, which is my favorite Phish song that I've been chasing since since I think the Vegas 90, whenever it was. It's been a while. I didn't see the 3.0 Forbans, all honesty, yeah. I've got a personalized Forbans license plate on my truck. I mean, that was a heater for me, so I'm like super pumped going right into this thing. Yeah, it was pretty spectacular out of the gate.
So were you planning to go to Tahoe?
I was.
Okay. Have you seen any other shows this tour, or was this?
I haven't. Yeah, no. This was. I live in Southern California, and these were going to be my my summer shows because we have so many treats coming in the fall. So I just figured I would catch something that's kind of local-ish. And I used to live in Tahoe, kind of home away from home, so that was going to be it for me.
And what do you have friends who are still there? I mean, are people what's it like there at the moment?
I do actually. I have some friends actually that deal blackjack at Harvey's, funny enough. And I don't know if it was how it actually was put together, but a bunch of the people that work there were given tickets to the show and hotels to come down.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool. Yeah, I don't know if it was an organized by the hotel thing or if somebody in the staff helped somebody hook up with somebody, but I know a bunch of people came down. Yeah, it's terrible up there. I mean, it's really really bad. There couldn't have been a show. I mean, if they chose to do a show, it would have been impossible. I mean, it's really, really bad.
So, what was it like going back into the show? This is their first time at Shoreline since 2015. Yep. Only the second time since the breakup in 2004, or the third time, I guess. What was it like going in there? And I assume that it was GA. It was sort of a different setup. And tell us about that experience and what that was like.
And had no idea walking in what it was going to be like as far as how are they going to control, the pavilion, the different sections of the pavilion, the lawn. As it turns out, it was super casual. As we were walking up, it was just first come, first serve, get a wristband, and then the different colors indicated how far down you could go. I got in at around 6 o'clock, and that got me into the 200 level, which was the back of the pavilion, which was cool. And it was chill. People were just moving around, and it was very, very casual. I mean, I thought it was going to be hectic and people pushing and trying to get up to the front, but as it turned out, it was a super, super casual vibe. And, you could pretty much, move about freely. Clearly, they had sold a bunch more tickets because Shoreline holds, 24,000. In Tahoe, 6 to 8, I think.
Yeah.
So it looked pretty packed. I mean, I was looking back at the lawn at the end of the show, and I mean, the lawn was packed all the way from edge to edge. So they definitely filled the place up.
Tell us about the first set. I know that you already mentioned that your favorite song was played second, which is always a good start. But
yeah,
it seemed like that whole set was really, really great. Listening back, I didn't watch the webcast. I just listened this morning. But tell us your take on the set.
Yeah, I mean, it was great all the way through. I mean, so the Glide Forbans we talked about, Wolfman's super funky, super dance party. Assuming at that point, they've been rocking for a few that they're going to slow us down. And then if I could, I mean, another virtual rarity. We don't get it.
Yeah, yeah,
great. It was funny. I brought in my little. I don't know if you remember they were selling these on tour like in 2010. These little notebooks. And I was sitting in a drawer for the last 10 years. And so I finally had a chance to use it and take some notes.
Nice.
I never needed you like this before. Obviously, my first time seeing that, and that is a rocker. I mean, that's a classic rock anthem at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, they've turned that thing into a beast.
Man,
And
I love that song. I'm like
yeah,
in love with it. I feel like it keeps getting better. It's not like a long, jam, but it hits so right.
yeah. I mean, it was tremendous. I loved it, and it's quickly become a classic or a favorite of mine for sure. And I look forward to seeing it again soon. What was?
And
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to go back to the If I Could. It seems like over the last several shows we've had like some of these amazing ballads that we all love. Like, there was Mountains in the Mist and If I Could and Life Boy and I mean, there's just it feels like I don't know if that's intentional or if they're just going through the rotation, but I feel like that If I Could was just beautiful and really just kind of fit perfectly in there. I feel like I'm sure that people weren't upset about that placement or a ballad in the middle of the first set.
No, I mean, you're going to get that at least some point in the first set, and I think it was well placed, and it opened him back up to have some time to have some fun. The Stash, super dancey, super different. That was like the first time I feel like we really got to hear some of the new Trey effects, in full force. Stash, some people don't. I mean, we've heard it so many times, how can you make it interesting? And I think they did. I mean, they did a great job. I mean, it's super, super fun, super dancey, kind of went out there a little bit. I was like, are they going to take this one far? I mean, I was really thinking for a moment that they were going to, see in 20 minutes, but it was great though. I mean, it really, really, it sounded wonderful. And then Way, I mean, we don't get Way very often, it's just like, really classic old school set. And something I noted, I think a lot through the first set was that, we've been hearing Page be so on point and so many new toys from him as well and new sounds. And this wasn't a real Page heavy show even until like we got to some of the stuff in the second set. But I'm always a huge Page fan. I was sitting Page side and, we didn't really hear a lot of the bells and whistles out of his rig early on. Did you find that at all on your re-listen?
Yeah. I mean, I thought that especially in the Soul Planet, there was a lot of more balance, I guess, to the effects. Like not as much. They didn't come through as heavily, and when they were used, it was sort of in a much more, I guess, balanced way. That's the way I was listening back to it, if that makes sense. And really pretty amazing. I don't know. I think that they're getting a handle of all those effects and the new sound and the way that everything's working together. To me, it feels like there's like a lot of balance at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they sounded super cohesive and just everything sounded right on. I mean, it was, dedicated set. It just sounded very, very, patient, planned. I mean, they just sounded fantastic. I mean, to be the first show back for me, I mean, it was like, I just feel so blessed to be able to see this band still so many years later. Like you said, I mean, I do agree with you. They are better than ever. And I've been seeing them since the early 90s and, caught every era, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I mean, this is just classic Fish. I mean, if I was going to show somebody the band and just be able to pick apart, these last 30 some years, this is the era that I would show them. I mean, this is it. This is a culmination of everything that they've done over all these years. I mean, this is it. Really, really spectacular.
So I appreciate that. And I share that. And, of course, like I was saying earlier, I mean, it's not every night that happens, you hit it on an amazing night. One of the, probably the best night of this tour so far in 18 shows, but, several of those shows have been like that, I think. And percentage, batting percentage might be lower, but, when it's there, it's pretty spectacular, So have you heard Soul Planet live before?
I have. Yeah, I heard it a couple of times. And I'm one of those people that sit in the not my favorite. Something before the show, or I think before the set, and then immediately that's what second set opens with. I'm a good fan. I'll smile and dance along. And then all of a sudden it started. I mean, I had to use a couple pages in my notebook to try to even just remember the parts and what happened. Yeah. I'll say, the hero, John Fishman. The fact that guy doesn't have arms like Schwarzenegger in Conan the Barbarian, he is just hammering through that. I mean, it was insane. I mean, he really, 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 should win an award for his performance on this one.
The Soul Planet, the lyrics are short, and I feel like the first 10 minutes of it was just sort of like you mentioned earlier about the effects. It was just Paige was on piano,
Yeah.
for the first 10 minutes at least, and Trey's just was, it just they were just sort of like pushing it forward, but not in a way that changed the feeling of the jam at all. And I thought that was kind of cool. It was notable that Paige like stayed on the piano for a long time. But yeah, Fishman. I mean, it's hard to explain. I'm not a drummer, but he's just so good. What
Truly.
you
I
know?
mean,
I don't
yeah,
know what else to say.
yeah, it was crazy. Could you hear that bass bomb that Mike threw in about halfway through? Like, I mean, the place just rumbled. I mean, it was.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one of those things that like when you're there, it's just like so much different than listening back.
totally,
You can just
totally.
like feel it. What else did you have in your notes about that? I was sort of listening back and taking notes on the first, listen through. There's so much going on there, but what were you observing?
It was really cool to start kind of see the effects opened up. Like you said, I mean, it was patient. It was very planned. I think that, they went into this thing knowing they were going to take it somewhere, and it just felt like all the way through. I don't know if you heard about. I want to say it was about 16 minutes in. It sort of sounded like a Close Encounters jam, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go back to it for sure. But
Yeah,
that was really cool.
that's like when Paige. That's when Paige finally got off the piano and
Yeah.
started sort of pushing it, which changed the sonic identity a little bit, but it didn't change the direction. It was just still kind of pushing forward. It didn't slow down at all. I guess that's the Fishman aspect.
Yeah, again, superhero. It was funny. There were many points where they could have kind of just dissolved it into something else, but be it Trey or whomever, they just brought it back and took it to a different place, and it kind of just kept cycling. But it never really went back to any sort of theme. It really just kind of went different places all the way through, which was fun. When Trey started, pitching little vocals, halfway through and then 2/3 of the way through, we thought it was going to kind of close up, but no, it was more.
That was sort of notable at like 26 minutes or so. Trey like hit the chords a few times of this song and then started the chorus, and it was like pretty clear that they didn't really know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
It seemed like maybe it was going to wind down, and then it just like then they started just pushing buttons, and then it like went into another kind of deep, crazy space area, which reminded me a lot of like there were segments of that jam that reminded me of the Split Open Melt jams that they've been playing recently.
Yeah.
It just gets a little bit slow and dark, and there's a lot of effects. But it didn't like sometimes that it dissolves into some other song, but then they just kept restarting it.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I mean, I was very reluctant to look at my phone to see how many minutes in we were, because I'm like, wow, this really feels like it's been 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah,
I mean, is it an hour? I mean, like it was pretty wild.
Did you hear light? Did you hear light teases? I heard a couple of people talking about light. And Peter, who's watching.
Yeah, I was standing next to him actually. So,
hey, Peter.
And it was funny. Light for sure. And then I'm like, wow, light out of this monster jam though, because light typically goes places. And I'm like, this is going to turn into just an epic hour and 20-minute, 2-3 song set. I mean, like, what are they going to, do with light? But yeah, I definitely heard that very clearly, very clearly.
And then I feel like around 34 minutes, so they kind of like went into this very spacey area. And then like 34 minutes, they kind of like amped it up. And then it was like really high tempo for 5 or 6 minutes, which was really cool. And clearly they were just, trying to keep it going. It was amazing. The one part I wanted to ask you about around 41 minutes, like toward the end, there's a point, and I guess I don't know if the jam got quiet or the lights went on. Something happened where you start to hear, like for a couple minutes, you hear the crowd just like appreciating what had just happened.
Yeah.
What was going on at that point?
Yeah, I mean, you could look around. I mean, a couple of times I just looked back, and you could just see everybody was just in awe. Like, what are we seeing here? Everybody was in it so much. Of course, I had a little pack of kids in front of me that were just super busy with something else. But sometimes we get that. But I could look over them and really have no issue with it and just enjoy it. It got to a point. I'm like, clearly this is longer than anything I've heard in a long time, and that Fish is done. And so I started, kind of getting stuck in my head, like, what's going to be next? Are they just going to slow it with a ballad? Are they going to keep rocking? And I mean, that transition into the final hurrah was just buttery. I mean, that was just really, really clean. I don't know if you want to jump forward right now, but like, that was just one of the smoothest transitions I've heard in a while, especially out of such a big jam like that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I do want to ask the kind of like being into the music and then wondering where it's going to go. There's like a fine line, where you're like, and then eventually or at least that happens to me too. I get to a point where I'm like, okay, what's going to happen next, or what, like what's going to happen after this? And I don't know. That's I
don't know, if we're getting older. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Final Hurrah, really and really good. It was 8 minutes or something, but really cool. And another great segue into theme. The segues this tour, especially in the second sets, have just been incredible. I don't know if they're, more practiced at those or what, but it definitely seems like they're easier to go into whatever they're doing next.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I love theme, huge fan. It was great. It was just exactly what we needed right then. It was just perfect placement. This is just one of those, another moment, just a wow moment of the show. Not a song that's super rare or anything, but it just was super well placed, and it was what we needed right at that moment. It was great. Then things got weird again.
It felt like there were several times last night when it seemed like they were doing something special for the occasion. There were several of those, right? The Forbins, maybe like several times throughout, but the Axela Part 2, the first one since December 31st, 1995, which is crazy, 855 shows.
Yeah, I mean, what do we see?
Did everyone know immediately when they started the lyrics, or was it like...
No, everybody's on their phone. Totally. It's because it's been so long, you know what I mean? I mean, that's, it's been many, many moons since we've heard that. Even on my old tape collection, I only have it on, it wasn't even something they played a ton of, back when they did play it. But yeah, that was real surprising. And, something a lot of people have been calling for quite a while. It's definitely on a lot of people's hit list. So that was just spectacular. I mean, really, really cool.
It's kind of like one of the ultimate Fish nerd moments, It's
totally.
Like you couldn't really explain that to someone when you come home from the show.
No. And I'm sending texts to people on the East Coast that I know are asleep, and I'm like just nerding out, and I'm like looking at my phone this morning, and I'm like, wow, I'm a real nerd. Like I'm in it. Like I'm that guy. And I have no problem.
That's how you go, right?
Yeah, totally.
Pretty amazing. And then another like pretty rare song, Attila, and a lot of Gamehenge material.
Yeah, I think three official.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That was great. And
pretty cool.
Coming on the heels of me already thinking that we haven't got a lot of Page yet, we get the ultimate Page tune. I've been fortunate. I've caught a lot of Tilas in my years, which is just awesome. Love that tune. I mean, just perfect settling in, played wonderfully. It was just sounded great. It was just perfect song for a perfect moment, and I guess I want, I don't think they sound checked it. So I'm just wondering when that call came, because it was just so perfect. It just fit the show. I mean, it was such a well composed, well orchestrated show all the way around. And like, this is just like, I couldn't have picked a better song for that moment. I wrote down, 10 songs that hadn't played yet this tour before the show in my little notebook, that I, was hoping that maybe we'd get that were realistic, a couple totally unrealistic, 2 that they've never played ever, that I always throw in my list, and, they played 3 of them. And I was like, wow, this is exciting. And Tila was on that list. So it was cool to see.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's great. And the Harry Hood was just another really great version. I feel like this tour, the hoods have been sort of shorter and a little less going on, but I thought that was a really good one to close it out. It was clear they wanted to keep playing.
Yeah, it was super happy, super blissful. I know they've got a pretty serious curfew at Shoreline, because it's pretty much packed into a neighborhood, so they can't go too much past 11 o'clock. But it was a great hood. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, great way to kind of bring it to an end. We knew the show was going to end with it, and it was just happy. I mean, I'm just looking around at the crowd, and it's just joy and smiles across the board. It was really, really great way to sort of settle in. I had a bunch of thoughts in my mind for encores, and then to see the megaphone come out, like, wow. Answer me this: Could you not hear Trey very well for the first maybe half of the song on the playback?
No, I didn't notice that. It sounded normal. They might have done some mixing after or something.
Yeah, because I found that when he went from the megaphone to the mic straight away, that he was kind of sounding quiet in the mix.
Okay.
And then about halfway through, maybe 2/3 of the way through, somebody made note of it, and you could definitely hear him better for the end of the tune.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then I felt like in the Wilson they were like screaming at the end, and it was just like I felt like if they had 2 more hours, they would have just kept going.
Yeah, I mean, some of those lyrics, you got to wonder. I mean, are they just perfectly placed? Like, can you still have fun? Yes, And then this with Glide, we're glad you're alive. I mean, and then Forbin's with the mountain reference. I mean, I think a lot of it had very, very poignant, undertones. And I think that, we just got something special last night, and it's something I'm super thrilled to have seen and to be able to talk about with you today. This is just spectacular.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to chat with you. So you're there and you're going tonight as well.
I am super excited. Yeah, I will. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, the only thing I'm going to do different is probably go in about 45 minutes earlier and see if I can get a wristband to get me a little closer.
Cool.
But yeah, no, super excited. You were going to say, sorry?
I was just going to say, when you woke up this morning and reflected on it, what were you thinking about this show, or about, I don't know, what were your takeaways after sleeping it off a little bit?
I looked back at my notes and I was just like, wow, I'm so blessed to have been able to be there. And the fact that it was my first show back, my first, we call it 4.0, I think we do. It was just, kind of in my backyard, away from backyard, so to speak. It just couldn't have been a cooler show to come back to. Super, super excited. I didn't even want to start thinking about tonight, because after last night, I just can't walk in with any expectations, This is just such a cool little, thing. And like you said a few minutes ago, I think they intentionally did some stuff for the people that had to, really aggressively adjust their plans. The folks that are getting to see a show that weren't going to get to see a show, a little blessing to the folks up in Tahoe, whatever you want to call it. But I think it was definitely an amazing show played with intention. And, like you said, we're lucky to be able to be a part of it still.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a good show tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it feels like I feel like the band and I'm sure the crew and the management, everyone was probably pretty stressed over the last 10 days or so, trying to figure out getting to the gorge, and then if they were going somewhere and where and how. And, those are stressful times, and it seems like there's they made it through and into a really pretty great situation, despite everything going on,
Truly, truly, truly. Yeah. I mean, Trey said thank you to everybody a couple songs in, which was, well received. And of course, I mean, it had to have been super difficult. We were actually noting, like, the lights didn't move last night. And, super excited to see that. And I was just thinking, is it like Deer Creek that has some old, fixtures that they just couldn't make it happen? Or were they not able to just do it that quickly on such a shift on the dime, pun intended, a little shift plug there. But yeah, no, they did a great job of, dare I say the word, pivot, that we hear so often. But it was just awesome. It was really, really great.
Yeah, it was. And thanks, Phil was watching on Facebook. Hey, Phil. He says, thanks, David. Great recap.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on. I'll be thinking about you tonight. I hope you have a great show. And thanks, everybody, for watching. And check out shiftcannabis.com so you can enter the contest. And maybe we'll see you all in Vegas. And hopefully see some of you at Dick's on Sunday in the lot for our little gathering. There's going to be a bunch of cool stuff happening there. So thanks again, David. Appreciate it, man.
RJ, appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.